and entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
I did a TED Talk on being bold that went viral, did very, very well. And I think it resonated with a lot of people because at the end of the day, if this is not rocket science, this is really kind of common sense that people sometimes forget, which is if you want to get what you want, you have to ask for what you want. It's super simple.
What's going on, guys? This is going to be part 2 of the Jen Cohen podcast. Why? Because Jen and I got off to an amazing start and it just didn't stop. We went on for a while and I try to keep these podcasts between 35 and 45 minutes for you guys. So they're kind of like an in-commute kind of thing. Jen and I talked about so many different things. I felt like connected. You know, she's like a sister from another mister. So I'm really, really pumped that I was able to break this into 2 podcasts. And I think you guys are going to like this episode as much as the first one. So part 2 of the Jen Cohen podcast starting now. Can I just tell you like my philosophy on why even the morning routine that I do and all the fitness that I do, why it's so important to my mental health?
Yes, go ahead.
I think controlling the outcome. Being able to actually control the outcome. When you can control a win, it's
about control.
It's a control thing. And fitness is you're going to feel better when you're done. It's an accomplishment that you're going to enjoy.
Have you ever heard of anyone be like, I feel like shit after they worked out? Like nobody ever says that. But your initial question, and you've said it a few times, was what happens if somebody doesn't have the ability to get themselves in a place where they can actually do that thing, like to go and move, to do a walk, to go for a walk, right? What does someone do, right? I'm not saying I have the answer. What is the answer? Is it to give them, like people say the same things, like give them a small win, by giving them a small little task to do. Does it work? Does it work continually? Does it become a habit necessarily? No. Don't you think that at some point, instead of having all the answers of like just, if the person, whoever this person is, just does this or that, maybe the answer really is, you know what? At the end of the day, you can only bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I don't believe that everybody on this planet has the desire to be productive, to feel better, to want to be healthy. Some people just don't have, that's not where their brain is at. And until that person has the desire to want that for themselves, there's nothing someone else can do. You can give them all the information and you can be supportive, but at the end of the day, if they don't do it, they're not going to do it.
Can I stop you there for a second? Because I think it's important to mention this. I agree with you. The thing that I think is really confusing is that the person that you're talking about actually thinks that not doing it is going to make them feel better.
Right, but this becomes like you don't know what you don't know, and you have to be the kind of person that is so uncomfortable with where you are that you're willing to try anything, even going for a walk if it's something you don't want to do. That's just the bottom line, right? Like if you're like kind of unhappy, like complacency is like the worst thing to be, right? Like yeah, you're not like thriving, but you're not in the gutter. You're kind of just like, going about your business, not happy about it. Maybe that's just not enough to push you in a direction to actually try something to become better. Like the onus should be on the person, on you, like on me. Like if I want to change my life, I have to change my life. It's not your responsibility to change my life or that guy's responsibility to change my life. I have to have enough desire and put the onus on myself to design and curate the life that I want to self-actualize, period. Like no matter how many times, listen, I'm around every expert in the world constantly with my podcast. I've spoken to every expert you can imagine for 300 episodes. And at the end of the day, our personal bias is our personal bias. You can hear the best advice from someone else, but if you're not in that place to hear that advice, whatever area that you're in, it's not going to land. It'll go in one ear, out the other, or you'll maybe contemplate it for a second and try it a little. But at the end of the day, you have to want something so badly that you're willing to put yourself in that situation that may or may not work out for you to change where your circumstance is.
So hearing that, what would you tell the person who finds themselves consistently in this predicament?
Well, do you have this? Can that person have enough self-awareness to see that their life, like if you do the same behaviors and expect a different outcome, isn't that what insanity is? Mm-hmm. I love the fact that people want these great results without putting in any of the work. They want all of the accolades and the rewards, but they don't want to put in the work. And I think eventually, at some point, you've got to say to yourself that person, whoever that person is, like, you have to put in the work. It's not easy. Like, you're not going to look like that unless you look at the hours you put in to have that that God body of yours. Look at all you do. But seriously, like, the truth is, like, anything, like, people don't see all the hours and input that it takes to become great at something or spectacular at something or even better at something. Forget about spectacular, even just a % better, right? You have to do it. You have to practice it. You have to put action into it, no matter what it is.
So do you think it's not fair to say, hey, what can you say to try to help motivate somebody to want to do that?
I hate the word motivation. I think motivation is such an overused and such an arbitrary word. Like, I could be motivated right now and then lose my motivation in 20 minutes, right? Like, it's very fluid. There has to be a bigger reason than just like than motivation to kind of keep you there. I think discipline, creating self-discipline, is way more important than motivation. So I think the question is, how do you create discipline? So where it becomes something that, like, no matter if you want to do it, you don't want to do it, it doesn't matter. You're doing it anyway. That's where you are right now in your life. That's where I am right now. If I'm sick, I'll still work out because I'm already conditioned to do that, right? Like, I have enough discipline to do that. If you have places like, there's a lot of different things I'm not disciplined in. If I have problems in that, I will tweak my environment. So then I guess I'm not like, I guess the word would be like, I'm not tempted to do something otherwise. I'll change the environment, or I'd create different structures so I don't fall into bad behavior.
Have you had to really face a bad habit and consciously quit, like consciously make a decision to stop doing it?
Left to my own devices, I kid you not, I would be 475 pounds. I would be on The Biggest Loser because I'm obsessed with food. Obsessed. And I think about it all the time. It's probably part of my culture, but it's been ingrained in me. So I've had to create certain parameters around, like don't put me in front of a buffet because that buffet will lose every time. Seriously, every time. And so, like, there's certain things, like maybe, like, there are some people I know, they have like what do they call it? Like, they have they're food addicts and they have to go to like food addiction places. Just how you have I would probably say I'm one notch below being a food addict, just one.
And so
I've created.
Well, no, you are a food addict, but you are disciplined.
Maybe.
You're disciplined.
But I've created that discipline. I've created a structure for myself and these parameters that I just told you about, so I don't fall often, and I don't go down that rabbit hole.
So talk about it. What do you do?
Like I said, that's why having a morning routine is super, super important for me. So if you put certain habits in place, I feel if you're starting off the day right, if you start doing things on the right side, basically right, you're much more apt to stay in line the rest of the day. I also believe, like you, in doing those hard things first, because you have that feeling, that sense of accomplishment, where if I'm like, I feel, wow, I did that, I achieved that, I can do that, I can move on to the next. It gives me confidence. It helps with my self-esteem. It allows you to want to, like, win the rest of the day and the week and then the month and then the year and then, over and over. And staying away from certain things, like creating that environment for yourself that you will make a better decision versus a not such a great decision.
Something that, because I definitely love food and I could easily go off the deep end with food too. One thing that I found to be so helpful for me is if there are Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups in my house, I am going to eat them.
Yeah,
Period.
but would you have one or would you have 50?
I would probably have one or two.
Okay, then please, this is not a conversation I can have with you. You're not a food addict. Come here. I'm talking like, I will give you an example that's real, okay? That's bullshit. Like, I'd have one or two. Give me a break. I'm talking about like, if I were to have like a carrot cake in front of me, that was the size of this table.
You would eat the whole thing?
I'm not even exaggerating the size of this table. I would eat the whole thing in one sitting in 10 minutes.
You would, or you would think about it?
No, I would. Like, well, how about this? I would for sure think about it. But depending on what I did beforehand, like if I was already somebody who like did my routine, my habits, I was already like down a winning path, I would be much less susceptible to eating that cake. Mm-hmm. Versus if I didn't work out and I kind of ate like shit in the morning. That's why one of my big habits, I didn't tell you this at the beginning, was I eat the same breakfast every fucking day. It's not creatures of habit, I'm sorry to say. Because that way I know I started off right, I had what I was supposed to have, and that it will make me have less mistakes later on.
That is why I created my company. Actually. Exactly what you just said. If you can start your day with consistent decisions that are better than bad decisions, it's not going to totally guarantee that you have a successful day and not going to eat the fucking the 18-inch diameter carrot cake. But the chances
how about this? It limits it lessens the chance. Even if it's like a 10% chance, it's still much less. Right? It's like that Dumber and Dumber, that Dumber and Dumber joke, mm-hmm. 1 in a million chances of going, at least it's a one of a million. So like the point is like, as long as if it's like less than what you normally would do, or it would put you on maybe a road to success, that's what I'm looking for. But like, I know what my weakness is. Having one Reese's, I wouldn't even think of that as anything. Like that's like a bad reference point. I'm talking like legit, and I would eat it fast. Like not just like that would be gone in literally 20 minutes.
So you are borderline food addicted. I would
easily.
say. Okay.
Easily, unless I'm like sticking to a certain like routine. Like I had I'll tell you a funny weird story. When I was a trainer years ago, like when I first, long time ago, I was training this guy who was the head of USA Networks, and we would always work out and then have lunch afterwards. And he was astonished by like the amount of food. People always are astonished, by the way, till this day, of the amount of food I can like take down. It is insane. It's insane. And he would watch me like consume so much food fast. He wanted to create a TV show. I kid you not. It went into like development. Me versus an army. Me versus 5 truck drivers. Me versus a frat house. And like they actually were going to put the show on. He was like, this would be a great show because I was this cute little girl. And by the way, I never had an eating disorder, mm-hmm. Or disordered eating. I just love to eat, or just either would not do that or be better, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, it was like actually a show that was in development to do this nonsense, and I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to be in the situation where I have to eat like 700 hot dogs against 20 truck drivers. Mm-hmm. But that's
it's so interesting that you talk about that. Like, and I, being an addict in recovery,
right?
Like I know what it feels like to really want to just like open the floodgates and go.
Yeah.
I think because of the discipline that I've created in my life, I have been able. So I'll give you an example. I did this competition. I was so regimented for months.
The bodybuilding one?
Bodybuilding competition. The last one I did. So regimented for months. It was beyond.
I've done stuff like that. I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I competed. Mm-hmm. And I did well. And it was in Maine. And in Maine, It's the best seafood, lobster roll, fried fish, fucking.
That's amazing.
So I had someone with me who was shooting content of like the whole driving up there, the whole thing. And I said, all right, we're going for it. And I ate. I mean, I put on 15 pounds in 48 hours.
What did you eat?
Everything.
But also,
but that was what I'm saying is that the addict in me, I let that addict out.
Yes, I do that too sometimes. But you probably only gained that much. That was water weight because you were so restrictive. You probably had 0 in you.
Yeah, it was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It was a terrible idea. I fucked up everything. I fucked up all of my all of my balance. Everything was all like it was a terrible idea. But what I'm saying is that I understand what you're talking about in regards to that. Like, yeah,
it's happening. It's game on. Like, yeah. It's unbelievable. Like if I have, and sometimes I don't believe actually, there's a big thing. Oh, everyone has to have one cheat day, blah, blah, blah. I don't have that because it only works if you have control over yourself, right? Like if I had a hamburger and French fries and that was okay. No, the second I have a French fry, it's not one French fry or it's not one order of French fries. It will be like 5 orders of French fries.
So you just
and I'll be starving. Yeah, I'll be like, yes, and I'm not, and by the way, this doesn't put me in a great light, and I know, but I think that a lot of people can relate to things like that, because people assume when they watch me on like my little fitness routines or doing my social media stuff that like, oh yeah, but bullshit, she doesn't really eat like that. She eats like a chicken breast and like broccoli, which, yeah, I mean, I do eat that, but I mean, I fuck up a lot.
So it's like I also, and again, like I guess it's years of practice, right? Like it's practice. I think ultimately at the end of the day, what it all boils down to is
practice.
It is practice, right? Like I have meal one every single day. I make the same fucking salad for lunch every single day.
What salad?
I mean, the ingredients change, but it's always 5 ounces of protein, either chicken breast, bison, venison, or beef.
Do you actually weigh your protein?
I do, for the most part. For lunch, only for my second meal today.
Why?
Because
what would happen if you had 7 ounces?
Oh, nothing.
Heaven forbid.
Nothing would happen. I think I think the weighing out the protein is actually a byproduct of the bodybuilding that I did for so long.
Yeah.
Because I don't track my macros really anymore. I do know what my macros are though.
Okay.
For the most part,
Okay.
And so Monday through Friday, I know what my first meal is. I know what my first snack is. I know what my second meal is. I know what my second snack is. I know what my smoothie is at the end of the night. My dinner is always a wild card, but it's always something pretty healthy. On the weekends, I don't have cheat meals or cheat days. I just fucking roll with the punches. If there's pizza on the table, because my wife is getting pizza for the kids and her, I'm eating fucking pizza. If we're having friends over and there's burgers and hot dogs and like barbecue brisket and I'm making pork butt, like I'm going. And I think that way of like seeing food is awesome.
Much better.
For me,
it's because you don't have any hang-ups with it though. Like, it's always easy for people like you who don't have any hang-ups with that to say that. So like I would say the same thing. Like, if I just saw some tequila on a table and some vodka martinis that were with watermelon infusion, yeah, if I saw it, yeah, I'm not a drinker, but yeah, I'd take it and try it out because, why not? It's the weekend. But if I had an alcohol problem, it would be a problem.
100%. I cannot have a sip
exactly.
of tequila.
So it's right. So if you had this, take away the carrot cake on the table and put a vodka martini or a tequila with whatever it is, it wouldn't be so easy for you to walk,
Right.
So that's what people who don't know shouldn't be giving advice on things that they don't know, like they don't feel. Mm-hmm. Like that's what another issue I have. It's like, what? Don't tell me what to do when you're not someone who's walked in that path before. It's much easier. And someone for you, I'm kind of surprised at you, little Michael, because you know how it is. Like you are an addict, right? So you're comparing, if you have food and but it wouldn't be the same situation if it was alcohol. You wouldn't be able to have alcohol.
You're right. I would not. And by the way, what I want to be clear in saying is that
I'm just teasing you.
No, I know, but I don't think that I'm a food addict. Right?
You're not. Well, that's my point. You're not, and that's what I'm saying is that because you're not, and you don't have issues in a real way like that, you can eat pizza and like stop it like a couple pieces.
No, but it's still, the truth is that it still actually makes me feel like shit. It does. It still actually makes me feel like shit. And I will be very like
guilt
vulnerable here and say that when I got sober for a year, I had a full-fledged, full-blown eating disorder. Full-blown. Did not know. I was eating everything in sight, throwing it up, not eating for days. I was all over the place.
Like bulimic?
100%.
Why do you think that is?
Because I was trying to fill a hole. I was trying to fill a mental void, an empty hole that I was filling for years with alcohol and drugs that I just couldn't fill anymore. And I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know anything about food. And I was told in the program that I was in to always have a candy bar in my pocket, always have a piece of chocolate in your pocket just in case. You know, you feel like you want to go grab that drink, grab a candy bar. And so I made sure I had them. You know what I mean?
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I had a full-blown 100% eating disorder. I don't know how I came out of it. That's the truth. But I did. You know, I did. And, you know, I came out of it. And thank God, knock on wood, you know, I've been able to like abstain from having to, from anorexia and bulimia. I mean, I had that for sure for a year, almost a year.
Which is interesting given the fact that you don't have a food hang up necessarily. That's more of a mental, because it is much more of a mental disorder than what people think it is.
What, food?
The eating disorders. That's more of a mental disorder.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's control thing.
Yeah, it's all a control thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got out of it, and then, by the way, were you really skinny when you were bulimic then?
I wasn't really skinny, but like when I got sober, I was probably 100 and like I probably weighed what I weigh right now, except there's a lot more muscle on my body now than there was then. I was probably like 165 pounds, and when I was going through that, I probably got down to like 145.
Yeah.
You know?
But not a good one for, it's like, you weren't.
I mean,
like,
I was also doing a lot of fitness too at that point, because that's what I also replaced my addiction with.
Right.
So people will say to me, "Oh, dude, you're addicted to fitness," all the time. And I'm like, you bet your fucking ass. I would much rather be addicted to fitness than addicted to smoking crack and trying to like have sex with your wife.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly.
That's the truth. And so, like, if you want to say like, oh, you're addicted to fitness, you're addicted to healthy stuff, I'm like, oh yes, all day.
By the way, people say that to me all the time, and I'm like, and like, how is that a bad thing? Like you know, oh, you're so obsessed with this. Yes, I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with fitness. I'm obsessed with healthy habits. I'm obsessed with eating well and feeling good about myself. Yes, I am obsessed.
Me too.
And why is that a bad thing?
You know what it is? When the people that tend to bring that up are the people that are unfortunately
totally true,
unable to do half of or a quarter of the things that you do, and
are jealous
and are somewhat jealous, right? Like, for instance, my sister, who I love dearly, who is now on an amazing path, but she knows this. For years, she just completely broke my balls about what I was doing in the world of fitness and healthy food. And, you know, we'd be out on a family thing, and, you know, I'd order, like, at the restaurant, you know, the chicken breast and whatever, like the chef salad, you know, and everybody's got, like, you know, pasta fagioli and lasagna.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm going to eat I'm going to eat the chicken salad at the pizzeria. And I'm that guy. And guess what? Like, eating that never makes me feel bad. Never.
Right. I wish we had that reminder in our head that we can always remember that, because you always feel bad eating an entire cake.
You're never going to feel good about that.
No.
Never.
You feel gross.
It's never going to feel good. And honestly, like, I have been able to, over the years now, like, I can control going all in. But there will be moments where I'm like...
In food, maybe, but not in alcohol. I mean, if you saw... Okay, so, again...
And the thing is that actually I don't know. And I don't want anybody listening to this to get the wrong idea. But I have been sober almost 19 years. right? Not a drink of booze, not a smoke of weed, not a pill, not a bump, not nothing.
Nothing.
No.
19 years.
19 years, almost. August will be 19
So
years.
you won't even do, like, you won't do any kind of edible, nothing.
Nada, nothing. And so I have abstained since I'm a kid, since I'm 23. Now, can I go have a drink? Maybe. And like not, you know, like go scale that electric tower like I used to do?
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know. Is it worth it for me to try? Fucking hell no.
Yeah.
After the shit that I've put together in my life, being away from that stuff, like, yes, people are like, oh God, you were in your teens, you were early 20s, like, dude, yeah, you
Doesn't
partied,
even count. Exactly.
you partied, man, but like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but guess what? I died and came back to life. I overdosed on heroin, and
Did you really?
yeah,
So you did do heroin?
yes, oh yeah, yes. What made you think I didn't?
I don't know. You didn't say that in all the drugs that you were talking about at the
No, I
beginning.
mean, I did at the end. The end of it for me was really everything, but like the end was heroin for me.
And did you really OD? Almost die?
I OD'd, and it was in an apartment. I'll tell the story on your podcast. All right, so bigger, better.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about my book now.
Bolder.
Okay, that's good.
Let's talk about it for a minute.
A minute? A minute. Thank you. You're too kind, really. A minute. Okay. What do you want to? What do you want to know?
No, let's talk about your book.
Okay. My book is actually not a fitness book, but it incorporates fitness as a major pillar in obviously building healthy habits, good habits, to be bold and to have self-esteem or self-confidence to go after what you want. The entire book was based on a TED Talk that did you know this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't, I did a TED Talk on being bold that went viral, did very, very well. And I think it resonated with a lot of people because at the end of the day, this is not rocket science. This is really kind of common sense that people sometimes forget, which is if you want to get what you want, you have to ask for what you want. It's super simple, right? It's super simple. And so the book is about the fact that, you know, you're not either born bold or you're bold or you're not, either you're born bold or you're not. And therefore that's your destiny in life. The idea is that everybody could be and become bolder by practice. And boldness is a skill like any other muscle. If you want it to be stronger, you have to work at it. And if you don't work at it, it atrophies. And so I really just talk about how people have to get comfortable with failing and not let their own self-doubt deter them for going after something. Because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, it's not the people who are the smartest that win. It's the people that actually try and have the audacity to believe that they can and have that self-belief. I mean, look at all these bozos out there who've like attained crazy success in everything, not just business, in lots of different ways, right? They're not usually extraordinarily anything better or bigger than you are. But you know what they did have is that they actually tried and they were totally tenacious and they kept it going. They kept trying, and they didn't let a failure stop them from trying again and making another attempt.
So bold is basically what you're saying is the way to achieve this bigger, better, bolder lifestyle.
What I'm saying is this, that it's not how smart you are or how talented you are that makes you have the life that you want. The secret sauce is being bold. It's
how
about
willing you are to take a fucking risk.
And it can be calculated risks, but it's about just basically chasing what you want, not just accepting and acquiescing to what was handed to you, that's in front of you. Too many people just accept the good enough, or they acquiesce to what's available in front of them, as opposed to being much more deliberate and curate the life that they want to become who they really want. So instead of working at a career or a job that actually is what they're suited for, that they actually resonate with, they'll just go on Indeed or LinkedIn and see what's available and then apply to that job, as opposed to being, a little bit more like a little bit more of designing it and be like, you know what, I really resonate. I really love this company, and this company. I'm going to apply to those companies, as opposed to like, the reverse of that. I'll just take whatever's available. I don't know what I want to do. Like, I think that we got to take ownership of the life that we want for ourselves. A lot of times, even when you like date people, right? It's like, well, he asked me out, or she asked, you know what I mean? Like, he asked me out, so I went, and we dated for a year, so then we got engaged, and now we're married, have 2 kids. Well, was that the person that you really wanted to be with, or is it because they made it easy? Was it the path of least resistance, right? Like, they asked you out, so there was no really hard work in that. Like, it was like you didn't have any really the only decision you made was, yeah, I'll go. And then, because I just want people to really take a moment and then make decisions that are much more, like, they're much more proactive in their decision-making process, to self-actualize and live the life that they actually really want.
To live more intentionally.
Okay.
No?
It is, but it's more than just living intentionally. Like, I want people to live a rich life that is goes way beyond money. Like, not just making money. Like, success to me is not just because you have a great job or because you make a lot of money. It's about, how are your relationships? Are they fulfilling? Are they satiating? How are the life experiences that you have? Are they fulfilling? Are they satiating? To have a rich life, it does encompass way more than just what you do for a living. And you can be really bold in one area of your life, but be really lax in a lot of other areas. So it's about like being reflective and being, okay, I'm good over here, but here I usually just take a back seat, and I just don't really, I'm timid, and I settle in this area. How can I just increase, how can I optimize that? How can I be bolder in that area, and then work in that area?
Do you think it's important / necessary to have someone or something, but more someone to chase?
I think everybody has things in their head that they wish they tried, or they wish they attempted at, but they didn't, because of self-doubt, because they thought that they weren't good enough, pretty enough, smart enough, or talented enough. So they don't even try. Most people don't. So what I say is that if you're somebody that just tries, you are already halfway there, because most people don't. So you're going to win just based on like pure numbers and volume alone. Then almost nobody makes 2 attempts, makes 2 tries at something. So if you're somebody who makes 2 attempts, then you're much more likely, again, you're increasing the chances of your success. So I have this whole thing called the 10% target, where I tell people to make 10 attempts at whatever they want most. And either 2 things will happen. Either they are going to get to what they want, or another opportunity will present itself that they never even knew existed, by just going down that process. And at the same time, they get comfortable with failure, which makes them much more resilient. So it's like a 3-pronged thing. So to answer your question about chasing, sometimes it's a person and sometimes it's a thing. It depends on what it is. But I believe that people have to think, why not me? It's like, what is the worst that can happen? Like, if I go down this path, or if I try for this and I don't get it, I'm not any worse off than I was 2 seconds ago before I tried. So why not? It's like a reframe of how you approach life, basically.
I heard a story about George Clooney when he was like not George Clooney, and he was auditioning, and one day and he was getting rejected, rejection after rejection after rejection. And then one day he had a complete mindset shift and started to say the truth, which was, that casting director needs me. Like, it's not a one-way street, just I need them. Like, they're in there looking for me. They need me. Actually, I'm going to go in there. And if I go in there with the attitude of, I need you, please, please, maybe help me, I need you, the chances of them being like, oh, that's the
person
one we need that person. If you go in there with the attitude, not like cocky and like, flossing your stuff all over the place, but if you go in there feeling like it's a two-way street, actually, and I learned this through the many times I've been told no raising money for my company.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
The hundreds of no's that I've gotten, thousands over the years. Like, if I walk in with the attitude of, oh, I just need a, like, we're so close. Like, that attitude, anybody who hears that is like, I'm not giving that person, I'm not going to help that person. That's not the one. It's so true what you just said about just the shift. It's like a shift in the way you think.
And I never understand why people find it. I just did this whole thing the other day on my podcast about if you're too confident, you appear cocky, and therefore you have to like tone it down and you have to have humility, right? Like, or if you're too self-conscious or like kind of have self-doubt, then that's not good either, because then you don't approach life in a way that, you kind of present yourself in a bad way. It's a really delicate line, right, of like how to be, right? But I feel like in general, like with being bold, like the euphemisms are like, well, doesn't that mean you're pushy, you're bitchy, you're aggressive? Like, there's always these negative connotations. So what I say to that is like, who cares? Like, whatever you can make anybody can make whatever connotation they want. But at the end of the day, if you're someone who's not getting what you want and just settling for what's available, then maybe it shouldn't matter to you what the euphemism is, and you should maybe try it anyway. Like, to me, it's like there's always these, like, I don't find there to be, like, who cares if you're pushy, if you're nice and polite about it? You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Like, I mean, I'm not saying being bitchy, but I'm saying if you're aggressive, what's wrong with being aggressive? Like, it's a squeaky wheel that gets the oil. There's all these cliches around this whole ideology because it's actually true. So it doesn't matter, right? Like, if there are going to be people who love you or hate you regardless of how you are and how you appear and behave. And water finds its level and you gravitate to that. There are going to be a lot of people who appreciate the fact that you are much more deliberate and you are much more proactive in what you're like. I think, to me, that's a way better way to appear in life and present yourself than to someone who's just like, you know what, I'll just accept whatever's available, and like, yeah, like, hopefully you like, like, I'll just take whatever's here. Like, to me,
oh yeah, I'll just sit in the back. It's okay.
I'll just sit in the back. Like, like, I went out for dinner the other night with somebody who's here from out of town, and he was mortified by the fact that, like, my food came, and I said to the person, can I get, the dressing on the side or something like that? The guy came and there was like dressing on my salad, and I was eating it, and it was like drenched in dressing, and I was like, I'm not going to eat this. Like, it's gross. Why should I eat this salad that had this disgusting it was like drenched, and I was very polite, and I said, I'm sorry, the salad has dressing on it. Can I just get whatever? Sure, fine, whatever. And he was mortified that I would like, God, like, how can you send back your salad that has like, that's drenched in dressing? Like, and I'm like, well, should I just like suck it up and eat it because it was just given to me? Like, if I'm paying for it, why should I not get what I want?
Especially if you asked for the dressing on the side.
Well, exactly. And by the way, if you didn't, and it came and you got your meal and it was cold, and it was cold. So am I supposed to just eat a cold piece of meat because?
Hell no.
Because I shouldn't make waves. I shouldn't cause a stir. I shouldn't put my hand up and ask for what actually I should have. Like, why do people have to just be okay with okay? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why?
I mean, being in the world of restaurants for so long.
Well, that's a perfect person to talk to about this.
Restaurants are my life for a very long time.
Yeah.
I love when people stand up for themselves and send their food back.
Really?
I love it.
Why?
Because I think that's telling me we're not doing a good job. And if people don't say shit, then they're going to walk out of the restaurant. They're going to tell their friends that they had a shitty meal. They're going to say, I got the food. It sucked. I didn't do anything. I'll never go back there. You should never go there. So when somebody sends their food back, I'm like, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to, and I'm not like blowing smoke. I'm not like trying to kiss ass. I'm like, actually, thank you for telling us we fucked up. Like, if you didn't tell us that, then we would not have known. And we might have put out 4 more plates like that tonight. So I appreciate you. Like, that to me is someone being honest. When somebody writes into Creatures of Habit and says, I had your shit and I hated it. I didn't like the pumpkin seeds. I didn't like the texture. I made it hot. It didn't come out right. I'm like, my first thing is, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your life
to write
these notes to me so that I can be better. And now I'm sorry. First, thank you. Because the truth is that most people don't take the time to stand up for themselves and say, hey, this sucked. And they'll talk shit about it all day long. They'll take all the time to stir it up and create drama and tell their friends how shitty it was. But they would never have the balls to stand up to the person who actually created it and say, hey, you suck. I want to let you know. And so I think that's bold.
That's
right?
bold.
This was an amazing time, and conversation was all over the place. It was kind of like a double podcast. Almost.
It was a double podcast, exactly. I'm telling you, we should just air them both at the same time.
I'm gonna two-part this one though. I'm gonna two-part it because I think there's gonna we're gonna make this for 2 different moments because we covered so much, and we talked a lot about food stuff. We talked a lot about habit. We talked a lot about fitness and movement. But I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come and meet me here.
I can't thank you enough for having me as a guest.
With the light and everything?
With the light, yes, exactly. It's
Best
perfect.
Lighting in town.
Best lighting in town. If you want to be lit well, come to see come to the Creatures of Habit podcast. That's what I have to say.
Jen, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, The Real Jen Cohen, TikTok. The book is being sold at all fine booksell, the usual, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere else. Fine books are being sold. They can sign up for my newsletter at jennifercohen.com. They can listen to my podcast at Habits and Hustle. And I think people will know how to find me if they want to.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, as usual, to the Creatures of Habit podcast. If you would be so kind to share this podcast with a friend, a family member, anyone who you think would like to listen to this podcast, it would mean the world to me. It would also be incredibly helpful if you wrote a review. If you want to give a 5-star rating, I'll love you forever and ever. That's my guarantee. Forever and ever love from me. And, tune into next week's podcast because it's going to be good as well. I appreciate you. I love you. And until the next time, peace.